Thank you so much for coming here. We are talking about what artificial intelligence cannot do is love, and how can writers or creative people constantly remind ourselves of the need of love. Um, the first thing, we'll start with talking about, can artificial intelligence or is artificial intelligence actually killing love? On one side, we have these dating apps, right, which is pretty much on artificial intelligence. In a way, it is creating love, maybe in a different kind of love. What do you think, Medha?
I don't know. So far as dating apps go, I mean, they're helping us arrange our own marriages. you know, I mean, look, the stuff that our parents base partner preferences on, these caste compatibility, class background, what the person looks like, what the person speaks like, and you know, if you're if you're going through a dating app and there's a person who does not adhere to these culturally inscribed codes that are always with you anyway, then it's just like arranging your own marriage. But, a little more unabashedly. Frankly, you know what? I mean, I am of the belief that love is not, you can't choose who you fall in love with. It's something that happens to you. It's like getting wet in the rain. It's, it's not up to you who you choose to fall in love with. So, I mean, saying that Tinder is helping people fall in love is taking it a bit too far, because something else happens there more often, which is people just hooking up.
But Yvonne, you think AI is killing love? Like, of all things that are killing love, and there are too many things that are killing love, is AI one of them?
First of all, please allow me to greet you, the audience. Thank you for being here. And thank you for at least a representative of all who are making my first visit to India and Kerala so amazing. Thank you. Now to the question. Maybe it's about age, but I actually think that we are valorizing and elevating artificial intelligence more than it needs to be. First of all, because these are things created by human beings, right? It's a bit like, I don't know, carving a face into a tree and then insisting that face in the tree is then dominating our lives, as if we want to scare ourselves. I think it's overdone. As long as we remember that at the core of everything, certainly for me, and certainly in my own quest as a writer and as a human being, is the constant will and desire to understand what does it mean to be human. What does it mean to be human is to create things that, support or supplement or improve or sometimes maybe even reduce our lives. But these are just props. These are not necessarily the things that would target the common values and desires and ideals we share. I believe as human beings we were created for love. We seek love, and there's so many ways of love. If love is under attack, I think we don't look at artificial intelligence. We need to look at our hearts.
Reshma, you're the face of Make Love Not Scars. आपने अभी अपनी किताब लिखी है जो आपके अकाउंट के बारे में है, आपके साथ क्या हुआ था तब एसिड अटैक के बारे में, बट आपने बहुत सारे जगह पे प्यार के बारे में भी लिखा है, आपके और आपके परिवार के साथ जो प्यार था, आपको जो प्यार बाद में मिला, इसके बारे में थोड़ा बताना चाहोगे आप?
जैसे मेरे को मेरा एसिड अटैक होने के बाद फैमिली वालों से बहुत सपोर्ट था, बहुत ज़्यादा प्यार मिला. उसके बाद फिर मुझे लोगों से भी बहुत प्यार मिला, सबसे बहुत प्यार मिला. मेक लव नॉट स्कार है, उधर से भी मुझे बहुत ज़्यादा प्यार मिला. फैमिली का तो बहुत ज़्यादा सपोर्ट था. ऐसे होने के बाद बहुत सी फैमिली है जो छोड़ देती है, लेकिन मेरी फैमिली का बहुत ही ज़्यादा सपोर्ट था.
तो आप बताओगे क्या हुआ था, आप पे अटैक किसने किया था?
मेरा अटैक 2014-19 मई में हुआ था. मेरे जो जीजा जी थे उनके मतलब उन्होंने मेरी बहन के जो हस्बैंड थे उन्होंने किया था. वो उसको बहुत मारते पीटते थे, बहुत सताते थे. तो हमसे अब देखा नहीं गया हमारी बहन की हालत, तो हमने उसको घर पे लेके आ गए. जब घर पे ले गए आए तो उसके 2 बेबी थे, हमने कि स्कूल में डाल दिया उसको. तो वहाँ से वो स्कूल में से बच्चे को उठा लिए उसके बाद फिर जब हम दोनों जा रहे थे रास्ते में, मैं और मेरी बहन, तो उन्होंने अटैक किया।
और आपकी बहन के साथ भी ये हुआ?
नहीं, बहन के साथ में नहीं हुआ है, बहन ठीक है।
तो आपके साथ फिर क्यों हुआ?
असल में मेरे साथ में इसलिए हुआ क्योंकि हमने बुरखा भी चेंज किया था दोनों लोग ने, और प्लस कि मैं सबसे छोटी हूँ घर में और सबसे लाडली हूँ, तो उन्होंने मुझे मुग्धा बनाया कि मतलब मुझे करेंगे तो घर में सब कमज़ोर हो जाएंगे।
Right. Do you want me to summarize it? So she was attacked by her sister's husband, and because her sister and her husband were having issues, and they were not in a good marriage, and he was abusive. So she tried to intervene, and the husband attacked her. But when we are talking about love and in times of hatred, Yvonne, your work is primarily on that. Would you like to talk about? Do you think about it when you're trying to write a book? Do you think that I want to introduce love because there is so much conflict? Do you think about it when you write that? How do you do this? How do you create that narration?
I think before I face the page, I meet the page as a human being in this world, worried about the things that human beings tend to worry about. And certainly, I come from Kenya. The book, say for example, the book Dust, or actually the very first story I ever wrote, The Weight of Whispers, was about a human being, a person whom we tend to call a refugee, ending up in Nairobi and losing his entire family, only because the whole structure around him set out to reduce him and his family and make him less than a human being. But his constant battle to affirm and assert his identity and as a man, as a person who loves, as a person who has dreams and ideals. I think, and the second book, Dust, was motivated by the time of Kenyan post-election violence, and I got petrified. I got so scared when I realized not only asking question, where does hatred come from? The kind of hatred that would cause a brother or a friend to set fire on, to kill his own brother and friend on the basis of political difference. I realized that that kind of hatred can not only destroy another human being, but can destroy a country. So the book was motivated by trying to not only understand that, but to, if you want, as a writer in a world of imagination, to find a way. You look at the darkness and then you say, is there a way out of this? Can you as a writer imagine? Can you pour light and love into the space, even if love is shut out? So yeah, I don't know if that really does answer your question, but yes, as I think it before writing, it's the desire of my own desire as a human being in this world, hoping against hope, and fighting for the optimism that says that. Despite our human wretchedness, there's also immense human beauty and capacity. And do we have the courage? Do we have the humility? Do we have the daring to go so deep and pull out the thing that is in us? That is actually love. That's actually good, and it's actually true and beautiful.
Can I just add to what she said? She started off with saying the necessity of this taking cognizance of love. Just look at everything that's around us. Our country is in a state of violence. Anywhere you look, something bad's happening. Anywhere in the world, it's just a really fragmentary place. And if you forget to look for the humanity inside yourself, it can very quickly become ugly. And that's why we need the page, we need the poems, the stories, the paintings, the music, the cinema, to remind us that there is this constant, throbbing, unrelenting beauty in the world. And it brings us back to our humanity. There was this one time in a philosophy class, like the first time I ever sat in a class, a professor asked us, what separates man from animal? And the reason was obvious. He was just saying that it's man's ability to reason. But the first thing I thought was, we eat carbs. The thing is, like, we're striving for things that make us feel good. Make us feel good. We're striving for aesthetic experiences. It's not just reason. Reason exists in nature. But it's reason that makes us animal, not human. It's our aspiration towards beauty and goodness and truth that makes us people.
रेशमा, आपने किताब में ये लिखा था, हम प्यार के बारे में अभी बात कर रहे हैं और व्हाट वी शुड फाइंड एंड व्हाट वी शुड सीक फॉर. आपने ये लिखा था जब आपके साथ अटैक हुआ था, इट वाज इन अ पब्लिक स्पेस. वहाँ पे लोग थे बट कुछ नहीं किए वो लोग. आप हॉस्पिटल गए बट हॉस्पिटल ने मना कर दिया एडमिशन लेने के लिए एफआईआर के बिना. व्हाट वाज दैट लाइक?
हाँ, जब मेरे साथ में अटैक हुआ तो वो भी स्टेशन के पास तो काफ़ी लोग रहते हैं, सब लोग होते हैं, लेकिन हमारी किसी ने हेल्प नहीं की. हमने ज़ोर ज़ोर से सबसे हेल्प मांगा, सबके पास मैं भाग भाग के जा रही थी, लेकिन हमसे सब दूर भाग रहे थे, हमारी किसी ने हेल्प नहीं की. तो हम वहाँ से फिर एक हॉस्पिटल भी गए, हमको देखने से बिल्कुल मना कर दिया. बोला नहीं, पहले एफआईआर लिखाइए, उसके बाद हम ट्रीटमेंट करेंगे. मेरे फेस पे एसिड 5 घंटे तक डला हुआ था. जब तक मेरा एफआईआर नहीं हुआ, मेरा पूरा कंप्लीट नहीं हुआ, तब तक जाके मेरा इलाज शुरू नहीं हुआ.
So when she was attacked, there were people around there, but nobody helped her out. And they asked for help, but nobody helped. When she went to the hospital, they asked for an FIR first, and for a police complaint first. So the acid was on her face for 5 hours before she was treated. The doctors refused to treat her without a police complaint, which is completely not legal, as far as I know.
It just showed their own patriarchal impulses,
So, the thing is, there is so much hatred in terms of, when you see something like this happening to somebody and you don't do anything about it, it happens often, right? Like, being sexually harassed is also so common, and you often see like somebody getting harassed in a bus in a public space, and most people don't do anything, they just watch.
I wonder if part of the paralysis in the face of so much horror comes from a profound fear as well. And I suspect we underestimate the power of fear in imprisoning us so that we are not able to make the step to save, to act, to be human. Because to step out of our fear might also mean an act of sacrifice. The sense that the possibility that if we step out of the realms of our fear, we might actually have to give up our own lives. And in a world that has, valorized and put more value on the hard things, on capital, on profit, the idea of the capital and profit of the human heart, the old values of sacrifice and of there's a word in Kiswahili called ubinadamu, the capacity to be in love with the idea of another human being, the presence of another human being. He seems to have gotten lost. I don't know if it is possible to find it, but that's probably mostly an individual journey. I'm terrified I'm moved, I'm terrified at the story that Reshma is telling. I can't believe that another human being would see another in so much pain and not act for 5 hours despite the calling. So those are the kind of things that one needs to look at and say, but what was the doctor thinking? What was the nurse thinking at that particular point? Not to judge them, but to say, but what was going through your mind so that you wanted the form to be filled before helping another human being in distress? I mean, even chickens help another chicken in distress. How do we lose this? Okay, so I'm really interested in that part. What were you, to go to the protagonist and say, but what were you actually thinking at that particular point?
I started thinking about something else to say to her, and then I kind of lost the thread of what I was thinking. Could you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, so I was talking about this whole bystander perspective, right? You watch somebody in pain, you see somebody being sexually harassed, and
Yeah.
that
Oh, right,
happens
right.
on a regular basis.
Tamashas in Delhi, basically. Yeah, I think a lot of this has to do with the kind of culture we consume, the kind of TV shows we watch. We've become desensitized to violence because it's so rampant. And I think it also reflects a failure in our legal and police system, because if you actually do want to do something about it, you still can't. You'll get in trouble. If you intervene at a road accident where 10 men are beating up another guy who apparently ran his car into somebody else's. I mean, this actually happened. I tried to intervene. I was physically pushed back and said, mind your own business, bitch. Like, this happened. And the thing is, it's a common thing. I called the police, by the time they came down to the area, they had dispersed, So it's just that this kind of violence comes from the fact that we are historically warring cultures, okay, within the subcontinent, and it is a patriarchal impulse to perpetuate that violence. When you're oppressing another person, you're declaring your own power over another. And why would you need to do that? Because fundamentally everyone feels disempowered, and they feel disempowered because they don't feel loved, they don't feel looked at, taken care of. I mean, violence is a really big problem, and it comes from all of our state apparatuses, every apparatus you have, whether it's your schooling, and you're subject to corporal punishment and verbal abuse and bullying, whether it's at home, where it's more the rule than the exception that fathers are abusive and mothers take it. So it's just that people are repeating the lives of the old world that they have seen growing up. The impulse has to come from within, to try and live differently, to see that there is a point in living differently than the people before us did, and not repeating their lives. But this thing, people just turn their faces away. That's also a violence. You're just as complicit.
That is hatred, right? In a way.
No, it's more than that. Like, people will say that's self-preservation, but this is what the colonials also said. We had to save the empire. That's why we had to steal things from everywhere else in the world. It's the same kind of like expansionist, capitalist, imperialist mentality. When you say, but I wasn't the one who did it, somebody else did it, I just walked away because I didn't want to be in trouble. You were just as complicit. You didn't do the killing, you didn't pull the trigger, but did you do anything about it? This is a moral problem. As a society that we're facing, you cannot pick individuals and see that, okay, it's actually people. These behaviors are reinforced again and again. And, well, feminists are fighting it. Artists are fighting it. And there is hope.
But do you think, is it being scared, or is it just the idea of, when you see somebody being attacked or being grossly violated in any way, is it like, I am scared as a human to go and intervene, or is it just because I don't care anymore?
No, as a woman, you would be scared. It's just the fact that we have less money, less power, less wealth, less clout in society. Men spend their whole lives accumulating wealth in groups. They form men's clubs. Women are not allowed to enter, whether it's the workplace or whether it's a temple or whether it's a mosque or whatever it is. You have to break that clique.
But what happens when the violence is visited upon men? I'm asking that question just generally because I've seen. One of the new stories I'm exploring is I think the wounds of men, and the fact that our societies have created spaces where the broken men, the shattered men, the men who are not able to speak, there's no space in which their own vulnerabilities can be articulated. I wanted to explore that in this new story, and in so many ways, only because of a couple of things that had happened. Yeah, I lost my father in 2012, in the year 2012. We are a family of, we're 8 children. We're 6 girls and 2 brothers. So in many ways, my brothers have grown up among very strong, but very women who, of course, who love them dearly. But I was struck by how we mourn differently. How we as the daughters of this man whom we dearly loved, were able to weep and to break and to fall apart. And though my brothers were also close to my father, the more the situation, leading up to burial, they became strong. They seemed to look stronger and stronger, and even stronger. And I was asked to do the eulogy, and I remember my brother coming up behind me and saying, "We don't break. Don't you dare break down." But the consequence of that was that we were able to weep and just watching, and they did not cry. But I remember leaving the country and then coming back and walking into the house and seeing that my brother, who's a big man, had become thin. I remember going up to Mom and saying, "What's happened?" And she just broke down. And I remember her words. She said, "He's not able to cry." So I think, and I remember my own inability to provide the space for. I don't, for whatever reason, and I consider myself very kind of grounded in the world in so many ways. There was no way. I don't know what language to use to this man, who is my brother, to tell him. I didn't even know what to say, and quite frankly, shame on me, I didn't want him to break.
Yeah. Is your brother younger than you are?
He's younger than I am, except that because he is, again, the whole thing of the kind of expectation of family. He was my first brother, 5th born,
Right.
Yet even from childhood, there's a subtle way of imposing a kind of...
Yeah, exactly.
We did it as well, because we'd always wanted this, the assumption of the brother. But there's a way in which there was a kind of expectation imposed on him to take a kind of leadership,
Yeah.
even though he was not ready for it. So that also meant that he had to be stoic. I remember that many times we'd get into trouble as his sisters, and forgetting that he's younger than us, we'd call him up to help us out of the situation. Break up bad relationships, beat up old bad men. When we were lost, we had taken ourselves and gotten lost somewhere, call him up in the middle of the night so that he would show up. But we never ever thought of what we were actually doing. So in a way, we also, I'm not saying we necessarily did it consciously. So I'm wondering, and this is just a microcosm, I'm wondering to what extent the spaces in which the expression of the things that lurk within the hearts of men and of women, but yes, it's easier for us as women to talk more about this. How much are the spaces shut down so that they explode? And I'm not giving any excuses, but I'm asking as a member of society, what have we done to shut down the spaces?
I understand. It's like patriarchy is a very nebulous thing. It afflicts men and women. Okay. When you talk about Hillary Clinton as a pioneering feminist, but she's also, in terms of international policy, an interventionist. It doesn't stop her from being any less patriarchal than any of the other warmongering presidents, right? We carry these patriarchal impulses within us. As a feminist, I know that there are some things even I'm not cognizant of. And the thing is, patriarchy affects men too, very differently, but just as well. There's so much more of a pressure on men in Indian society to succeed, to make money, to be forced to do engineering degrees when they'd rather study English or art. When they fail, the punishments for them, the persecution for them in society is much greater. Yes,
and
we
not cry.
Yeah, and not cry. So the thing is, the man is the performer and the woman is the passive one. And these roles have affected us in very, very different ways. Everyone is hurt. Everyone is fractured in some or the other way. There, you, there was a figure I think that came out last year. 52% of the children abused in our country were young boys. The remaining were the girls. It's a much larger number. And it begins right there, at the level of childhood. And it might not always be sexual abuse, but like when I was in school, corporal punishment was a very normal thing. I was caned on my knuckles. Teachers threw copies at me when I didn't do my homework. And there was this one particular teacher I remember. If the boys didn't do their homework, she'd call them up to the dais from where she was teaching and put nail polish on their nails to emasculate them. The thing is, we're not having healthy conversations about masculinity, about healthy masculinity. We teach our men toxic masculinity. And this is the problem. So when they are in spaces, they feel disempowered inside themselves. Historically, the only way, if you look at history, the only way men have been taught to feel empowered is either through waging war or ruling kingdoms. But there are so many ways to feel empowered: in your quietness, in preferring to look at the trees and the birds and talking about the beauty of the world and not inflicting violence on another person. It's something, honestly, my father didn't know, okay? I'm not saying he was a violent man. I know that he had violent impulses because his father was a violent man. He said some cruel things that you just never say to another human being. It can break them entirely. But he was the kind of person, he would say anything in a fight. He wouldn't know when to stop. And the thing is, like, when our fathers pass away, at some level, we make enemies out of our parents as children. When my father passed away, I didn't have an enemy anymore. And then I didn't know who I was, because I'd always defined myself in relation to somebody I didn't want to be.
I'll just take it to Reshma now. You're the face of Make Love Not Scars. That's the title of our discussion today. तो Make Love Not Scars में आप क्या करती हो, थोड़ा उसके बारे में बताइए.
मेक लव नॉट स्कार हमारा एक एनजीओ है जो हम एसिड अटैक सर्वाइवर के ऊपर काम करते हैं. तो मैं उसकी एक फेस हूँ और हमारा मेक लव नॉट स्कार एसिड अटैक सर्वाइवर को हेल्प करता है. ऑपरेशन, मेडिकल, जो भी हो, पढ़ाई हो, सब कुछ में हेल्प करता है. तो हम मेक लव नॉट स्कार में यही करते हैं.
तो अभी एसिड अटैक अभी भी हो रहा है, एंड इट्स अ जेंडर्ड वायलेंस. इट हैपन्स टू विमेन, सो इट इज़ अ जेंडर्ड वायलेंस. सो अभी बंद नहीं हो रहा है अभी भी. इसके बारे में आप.
हाँ, एसिड अटैक आज भी हो रहे हैं. जब मैंने कैंपेन शुरू किया था बीटी टिप्स बाय रेशमा एंड एडरिजा सेल का, तो सुप्रीम कोर्ट से ऑर्डर आया था कि एसिड को बंद करवाया जाए, लेकिन फिर भी नहीं. आज भी वो हर जगह बिक रहे हैं. आप कितने में भी लेके 5 रुपये में, 10 रुपये में लेने के लिए जाओगे, आपको एसिड आसानी से मिल जाएगी. आपके पास में पैसा भी नहीं होगा, फिर भी सामने वाला दे देगा. किस चीज़ के लिए यूज़ किया जा रहा है? वॉशरूम के लिए, ये सब चीज़ के लिए यूज़ किया जा रहा है. तो प्लीज़ इसको बंद करवाए. ये किसी वॉशरूम या किसी यूज़ के ज़रूरत नहीं है, किसी की ज़िंदगी ख़राब हो जाती है. कोई भी एसिड ख़रीदता है, किसी के ऊपर भी डाल देता है, चाहे वो उसकी वाइफ हो, चाहे वो उसकी रिश्तेदार हो, कुछ भी हो. तो एसिड इतनी आसानी से बिकने लगा है ना, बहुत आसानी से. हम एक कोई चीज़ लेने के लिए मेडिकल में जाएंगे तो हमको इम्पॉसिबल नींद की दवा मिल जाएगी, हमसे पेपर मांगा जाएगा. लेकिन एसिड भी तो हार्ड चीज़ है. आप उसको ऐसे ही दे देते हो कि लेके जाओ. जितना इंसान को चाहिए उतना चाहिए. ये नहीं पता कि वो सामने वाला जाके किसी की ज़िंदगी ख़राब कर देगा.
So we are talking about acid attack here, and she's saying that, Supreme Court has still not banned acid. It's pretty much available in every counter that you go for 5 rupees, 10 rupees. And you can use acid for like cleaning your bathroom, but they're also ruining lives like this. So I have no idea why it's not banned yet, but...
She also said you need a prescription for sleeping pills.
Yeah.
But
prescription.
HCl, it's a much harder substance and available over the counter.
Is it something, acid attack is something I would like to talk about further. I was saying it's a very gendered violence. We don't talk about it as much as like when we say rape, okay, we talk about, okay, a man raping a woman. When it's an acid attack, you say it's revenge, but it's always on women. Why do you think, would you like to,
Yeah, look,
why do you think
there
what do you
is,
think
yeah.
it stems from?
There are certain types of violence that are very gender specific. These acid attacks are the first evidence of it, like you rightly pointed out. It's revenge, but like in India, it's a very material pain that we go through. In the States, there's this entire category of revenge porn where men would film having sexual relations with their partners, and as soon as the women break up, they would just upload it and ruin the girl's life. And it affects her workplace, it affects her job opportunities, it affects the way people see her. And no matter how much she says, I wasn't complicit in this, people would just think, okay, but she ought to have known. So, I mean, the thing is, men don't know where to direct the violence inside them.
What do you want?
They need to break something to feel satisfied. And it's not, I won't say men, anybody who does this. Something needs to be destroyed for them to feel at ease.
I think I'm still shocked by the intensity of that particular horror. But I guess the question is then, I think it's mostly for you then, as a people, what do you want? And I'm tempted to say, what do we want? What is the thing that we want to imagine forth? We know what is wrong. We know what is hurting us. We know how beauty and goodness and truth are scarred and broken. But what can we imagine to overcome this, to transcend this, to transfigure our lives?
Should we take some questions? No questions?
Good morning, madam. Love is always considered as divine, but don't you feel that in these present times, love has just became just a mere physical or sexual attraction? And moreover, don't you feel the media, mass media, irrespective of films, literature, television, play a vital role in persuading the individuals, whether it is readers or viewers of a specified program, that love is just a sexual relation. Moreover, there is nothing beyond that. Don't you feel so?
Listen, I need to answer that because when you say love is always considered divine, it's one type of love. The Greeks had, the ancient Greeks, they had 6 conceptions of love. So agape, which was universal love, love for the world. Philia, which is familial love. Eros, which is sexual love. A couple more, I can't remember them. But the thing is, there's sexual love, romantic love, family love, and universal love. These are the 4 main categories under which it was seen that human beings experience love, okay? And then we now have this thing called desire, but the Greek term for it was glucopikron, which is where the term glucose comes from, okay? And what we call bittersweet. So the idea was here that desire for another human being was actually the anticipation of that union, okay? The desire would not exist without that distance between people. And when you say love has always been considered divine, that's a very religious understanding of what it is. So when we come from religious backgrounds, it's kind of enrobed in these ideas of purity and perfection. And we hurt ourselves with that. Because what that does is it makes us strive for things like security and comfort in marriage and so on and so forth. But those are just modalities for expressing love. It's not love in itself, right? Now you made a point about mass media and mass culture. Yes, it plays a really big role in how we choose to interact with other people in those romantic terms. Okay, we want a person to look a certain way, we want a person to talk a certain way, we want them to have certain airs. But I think it is our personal task to break these things that are constantly being bombarded in our face through aggressive advertising and media and so on.
ഈ സ്ത്രീയെ കുടുംബം മുതൽ ജനിക്കുമ്പോൾ മുതൽ വേർതിരിക്കുകയാണ്. കുടുംബത്തിലെ സെപ്പറേഷൻ, അത് കഴിഞ്ഞ് സ്കൂളിൽ സെപ്പറേഷൻ, സൊസൈറ്റിയിൽ സെപ്പറേഷൻ, വിവാഹശേഷം ഹസ്ബൻഡിൻ്റെ സ്ലേവ്. ഇതിനൊരു മാറ്റം വരുത്തുവാനായിട്ട് സ്ത്രീകൾ മുന്നോട്ടിറങ്ങണ്ടേ? നിങ്ങൾക്കൊക്കെ എന്ത് ചെയ്യാൻ കഴിയും?
In some ways, you've also helped answer your own question. The fact that the question is being asked means that the changes can be made, I think. And it starts here, it starts now, it starts with the individual. It's how you raise, apart from raise your children, it's also how you raise yourself. In many ways, you've started answering the question. And this is how societies, I imagine, are made by an imagination of something different. And the power always starts with the capacity to see, to recognize, and to hope that something can change. That's what I think.
I absolutely agree with Yvonne. And the thing is, we have to. The point of raising awareness is this, so that awareness reaches the important people in the system who have the power to imply these changes, to suggest these changes in terms of policy, for example. You know, like for example, we have the Ladli scheme in India. The single girl child now gets free education. It's these incremental policy changes. That's the whole point of raising this awareness. The way we can change it is just to keep asking these questions, keep raising our voices, make them louder and louder and louder. So one day, we all have the same spaces and the same jobs. And the thing is, it really benefits society at large. It's better to have two people in a household earning an income, because then they'll be able to raise the child better. So we have to give our women the same proper education, just as much food, and spend on, invest on higher education in the same ways that we have historically done for boys. So it's just that you ask the questions and you ask them in the right places. We don't know where this conversation will go, who might see it, but the fact that you raise the question in the first place, that's the most important thing.
रेशमा मैम, क्या मैं आपसे एक क्वेश्चन पूछ सकती हूँ? आपके साथ इतना बुरा हुआ, फिर आपको ये हिम्मत कहाँ से मिली? क्योंकि यहाँ पे अगर लड़कियों को कुछ हो जाती है तो पहले ये कही जाती है कि लड़की ने गलत किया, घर वाले सब कुछ जो समाज है वो सब लोग यही कहते हैं कि लड़की ने पहले गलत किया. तो आपको ये हिम्मत कहाँ से मिली और आप क्या कहना चाहती है लड़कियों को कि कैसे हम ये हिम्मत रखें कि हम आगे आए और ये बताएं?
हाँ, जैसे आपकी बात सही है कि जैसे लड़कियों के साथ में कुछ होता है तो उसको ही गलत माना जाता है कि हाँ इसकी कुछ गलती होगी, इसने ही कुछ किया होगा. लेकिन ऐसा नहीं है. मतलब लोगों की सोच चेंज होनी चाहिए. और आज मेरे साथ में एसिड अटैक हुआ जब मैं 17 साल की थी, तो मैंने हिम्मत तोड़ दिया था. मैं जीना नहीं चाहती थी, क्योंकि यही लोगों को सपोर्ट करना चाहिए. जब यही लोग मुझे बोलते थे कि ज़िंदगी ख़राब हो गई, शादी कैसे होगी, तो इतनी तकलीफ़ होती थी कि यही लोगों को सपोर्ट करना चाहिए और यही लोग ऐसा बोलते हैं. तो हिम्मत मैंने खुद बहुत किया, फैमिली का बहुत ज़्यादा सपोर्ट था और मैंने खुद से हिम्मत किया कि जो मेरे साथ में किया है मैं उसको हारने नहीं दूंगी, क्योंकि उसने मेरी ज़िंदगी ख़राब करने के लिए कोशिश की. मैं ऐसा नहीं करूँगी, मैं आगे बढ़ूँगी और मैं बहुत आगे जाऊँगी. शायद वो मुझे देखे, उसने यही सोच के किया कि मेरी ज़िंदगी ख़राब हो जाए. और लड़कियों के अंदर सब कुछ देखा जाता है, वो फिट हो, एक शादी करने के लिए भी लड़कियों में सब कुछ देखा जाता है, उसको चला के देखा जाता है. तो ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए, सोच चेंज होना चाहिए, क्योंकि सबकी लड़कियाँ एक जैसी है और सबको एक तरीके से देखना चाहिए. आज हम एसिड अटैक सर्वाइवर हैं, हम बाहर चलते हैं तो हमारा मुश्किल है चलना. हमको लोग ऐसा ट्रीट करते हैं जैसे हम समाज से बाहर हैं. क्यों? हमने अपने आप से गलत नहीं किया है, हमारे साथ गलत किया गया है. तो आप लोग जब ऐसा करोगे तो फिर कैसा होगा? तो अपने उसमें चेंज लाना चाहिए. तो वो चीज़ और हिम्मत तो मतलब खुद ही करना चाहिए कि हाँ, अपने से भी हिम्मत करना चाहिए कि हाँ हम बहुत कुछ कर सकते हैं. लोगों का सपोर्ट भी ज़रूरी है कि हाँ लोग का सपोर्ट चाहिए, लेकिन हाँ हम अंदर से भी बहुत कुछ कर सकते हैं.
थैंक यू मैम.
और चेहरे से खूबसूरती नहीं होती है, इंसान का दिल अच्छा होना चाहिए, तो हम बहुत कुछ कर सकते हैं. थैंक यू.
She So the question asked was, where does she get the strength and the fortitude to push through this kind of horrible, horrible thing that happened to her? And I think it's the best answer I've ever heard from anywhere. That man who attacked her did it specifically with the intention to ruin her life. And she could not have let him win. Plus, she had a lot of family support. Everything that she needed was there. But the fact is that she still fought through. And she's speaking about how women are objectified even in the process of the marriage. They make the girl walk to assess whether she's fit for marriage or not. They assess her up and down in every possible way, in every in every way that you can objectify a woman. She's done that way. She's objectified before she's chosen for marriage. But the thing is, beauty is not here. This all goes away with time. It's really what's inside.
So what she's also saying, just to add to it, she's saying, that brave that she is, like, we're talking about her bravery. It's there in every woman, right? You just have to find that courage, right? And when she's saying that when she walks, there are people out there who would say that, oh, what is this? What she's trying to say is that it's not her fault. What happened to her is definitely not her fault, and what happens to women when they're attacked, when there is a violence against them, it's never their fault, it's not their clothes' fault. It's none of that.